Metrolink is a tram light rail system in Greater Manchester, England. The network consists of 7 lines which radiate from Manchester city centre to termini at Altrincham, Ashton-under-Lyne, Bury, Didsbury, Eccles, Manchester Airport and Rochdale. The system is owned by Transport for Greater Manchester and operated and maintained under contract by RATP Group. Metrolink has 92 stops along 57 miles of standard gauge track, making it the largest light rail system in the United Kingdom and one of the largest modern tram networks in Europe. Indiana, 2013/14, 29.2 million passenger journeys were made on the system. A light rail system for Greater Manchester was born of Greater Manchester County Council's obligations to provide an integrated and efficient system of public transport under its structure plan and the Transport Act 1968. Greater Manchester's public transport network suffered from poor north-south connections, exacerbated by the location of Manchester's main railway stations, Piccadilly and Victoria, which were unconnected and lay at opposite edges of central Manchester. Abandoning the monorail and underground options conceived in the 1960s and 1970s, light rail was proposed in 1982 as the best and most economical public transport solution for Manchester city centre and the surrounding Greater Manchester metropolitan area, and gathered support throughout the 1980s as an appropriate integrated commuter service. Government approval was granted in 1988 and the network began operating services between Bury Interchange and Victoria on April 6, 1992. This founded the United Kingdom's first modern street-running rail system and its second operational public tram system, the 1885-built Blackpool Tramway being the only heritage tram system in the UK that had endured up to Metrolink's creation. The system has a mix of designated light railway and on-street tramway. It is operated by a fleet of Bombardier Flexity Swift M5000s. Expansion of Metrolink has been a key strategy of transport planners in Greater Manchester, who have overseen its development in successive projects, known as Phases 1, 2, 3A, 3B and 2CCs. TfGM have endorsed further expansion with proposals for new lines to Stockport, Port Salford, completion of the missing section of a loop around Wythenshawe and the addition of tram-train technology. History. Origins. A light rail system for Greater Manchester was born of a desire by the Greater Manchester County Council to fulfil its obligations to provide an integrated and efficient system of public transport under its structure plan and the Transport Act 1968. Greater Manchester's public transport network suffered from poor north-south connections, exacerbated by the location of Manchester's main railway stations, Piccadilly and Victoria, which were unconnected and located at opposing edges of its city centre. Piccadilly and Victoria were built in the 1840s by rival companies on cheaper land on the fringes of the city centre, resulting in poor integration and access to the central business zone. In as early as 1839, in anticipation of the stations being built, a connecting underground railway tunnel was proposed but abandoned on economic grounds, as was an overground suspended monorail in 1966. Selneck Passenger Transport Executive, the body tasked with improving public transport for Manchester and its surrounding municipalities in the 1960s, made draft proposals for a Pickwick Tunnel, a proposed rail route beneath the city centre forming the centrepiece of a new electrified railway network for the region. Despite investigatory tunnelling under the Manchester Roundale shopping centre, when the Greater Manchester County Council presented the project to the United Kingdom government in 1974, it was unable to secure the necessary funding, and was abandoned on economic grounds when the County Council dropped the plans in 1977. In 1982, the Greater Manchester Passenger Transport Executive concluded that an overground metropolitan light rail system to replace or complement the region's underused heavy railways was the most economical solution to improving Greater Manchester's public transport network, which suffered from poor integration and outdated infrastructure. A rail study group, composed of officials from British Rail, Greater Manchester County Council and GMPTE formally endorsed the scheme in 1984. Abstract proposals based on light rail systems in North America and continental Europe, and a draft 62-mile network consisting of 3 lines were presented by the Rail Study Group to the UK government for funding. Following route revisions in 1984 and 1987, and a trial on February 9, 1987 using Docklands Light Railway rolling stock on a freight-only line adjacent to Dale Park, funding was granted by HM Treasury with a strict condition that the system be constructed in phases. Additional funding came from the European Regional Development Fund and bank lending. Phase 1, Bury, Altrincham and Manchester City Centre, conversion of the East Lancashire Railway and Manchester, South Junction and Altrincham Railway heavy rail lines, and creation of a street-level tramway through Manchester City Centre to unite the lines as a single 19.2-mile network, was chosen for Phase 1 because the 2 heavy rail lines were primarily used for commuting to central Manchester, and would improve North-South links and access to the city centre. The required parliamentary authority to proceed with Phase 1 was obtained with 2 Acts of Parliament to the Greater Manchester Act 1988 and Greater Manchester Act 1988. On September 27, 1989, following a 2-stage tender exercise, the Greater Manchester Passenger Transport Authority awarded a contract to the GMA Group who formed Greater Manchester Metrolink Limited to design, build, operate and maintain Phase 1 of Metrolink. The contract was approved by Michael Portillo on behalf of the Department for Transport on October 24, 1989, and formally signed on June 6, 1990. The Bury line was closed in stages between 13 July 1991 and 17 August 1991, after which the 1200 VDC Third Rail electrified line was adapted for a 750 VDC overhead line operation. In Manchester City Centre, a tramway built with network expansion in mind from Victoria to Piccadilly via Market Street and Piccadilly Gardens connected Bury to Altrincham via Manchester. The overhead structures and wiring of the Altrincham line were adapted for light rail. As well as upgrades to signalling and stations on the network, a combined headquarters, depot and control centre was built at Cheetham Hill on Queen's Road, north of Victoria Station, at a cost of £8 million. Initially projected to open in September 1991, then promised for February 21, 1992. Metrolink began operation on April 6, 1992 with a service between Victoria and Bury. Along with the Tyne and Wear Metro and Docklands Light Railway, it helped to reintroduce light rail to the United Kingdom. The network was expanded beyond Victoria to GMX Metrolink Station on April 27, 1992. A service through to Altrincham joined the network on June 15, 1992. Completing Phase 1 and enabling use of 26 trillion Albanian lek 68 vehicles acquired for the operation. Elizabeth II declared Metrolink open at a ceremony in Manchester on July 17, 1992, adding that Metrolink would improve communication between northern and southern Greater Manchester. After the ceremony the Queen visited Manchester Town Hall and rode from St Peter's Square to Bury to visit Bury Town Hall. Then costing £145 million, Phase 1 was expected to carry 10 million passengers per year, but surpassed this figure by the 1993-94 fiscal year, and every year thereafter. In recognition of passenger demands and the decommissioning of the Arndale bus station after the 1996 Manchester bombing, adjustments were made to Phase 1 to the design of Manchester City Council's city centre master plan, by modifying Market Street Metrolink Station to handle two-way traffic, demolishing High Street Metrolink Station in 1998 and creating a new stop for Shud Hill Interchange in 2002. Sections of track in the city centre were relaid following damage to the road surface adjacent to the line. By 2003, Phase 1 was deemed a long-term success by GMPTE, and, with overcrowding at peak times, carried more than 15 million passengers per year. Phase 2, Salford Quays and Eccles. Extension of the Metrolink network was intended to be continuous with successive expansion phases delivered in strict order of priority. GMPTE wanted to repeat its success with Phase 1 by converting other parts of Greater Manchester's underutilised suburban rail network. However, changes in circumstances and new opportunities, combined with a shift in government policy following the early 1990s recession stalled the immediate expansion of Metrolink after Phase 1. Phase 1 a proposed east-to-Euro-west route from Eastlands to Dumplington via Salford Quays was muted by uncertainty surrounding the Manchester bid for the 2000 Summer Olympics, the Trafford Centre, and regeneration of Manchester Docks respectively. Nevertheless, throughout the 1990s, the Greater Manchester Passenger Transport Authority continued to acquire rights to construct Metrolink lines under the Transport and Works Act 1992. During the 1990s, Salford Quays became a business district specifically redeveloped for commerce, leisure, culture and tourism with a high density of business units and modern housing, complemented by a cinema complex, office blocks, and waterfront promenade. As it had poor public transport integration and no rail provision, it was earmarked for a potential Metrolink line as early as 1986 and legal authority to construct the line through the Quays was acquired in 1990. The Quays received millions of pounds of investment and a public consultation and public inquiry resulted in government endorsement in 1994. In autumn 1995 a 4-mile Metrolink line branching from Cornbrook Metrolink Station to Eccles via Salford Quays capitalising on the regenerated quayside was confirmed as Phase 2 of Metrolink. No funding came from central government and money was raised from the Greater Manchester Passenger Transport Authority, the European Regional Development Fund and private developers. In April 1997 Altrincham, a consortium of the Serco Group, Anne Soldo and John Lying was appointed to construct the Eccles line. Serco, responsible for the Sheffield Supertram would operate the whole network under contract. Anne Soldo provided 6 additional vehicles a Euro T68 as a Euro, and signalling equipment. Construction work officially began on July 17, 1997. The Eccles line was officially opened as far as Broadway Metrolink Station on December 6, 1999 by the Prime Minister, Tony Blair, who praised Metrolink as exactly the type of scheme needed to solve the transport problems of the metropolitan areas of the country. A service to Eccles Interchange joined the network on July 21, 2000, and was officially declared open by Anne, Princess Royal at a ceremony on January 9, 2001. On completion, Phases 1 and 2 gave Metrolink a total route length of 24 miles. Phase 2 was predominantly privately funded and cost £160 million. Salford City Council considered Phase 2 an important contribution to Salford's public transport network, providing a fast and frequent service between Eccles, Salford Quays and Manchester city centre. But, in competition with comparatively quicker and cheaper buses, the line navigated the Quays on a slow and meandering route, and failed to reach its initial passenger targets. Patronage increased during the 2000s as the Eccles line steadily increased in popularity in keeping with the rise in passenger numbers across the whole Metrolink system and was beginning to become overcrowded by the end of the decade. Phase 3, in 2000, officials and transport planners in Greater Manchester considered Metrolink to be a phenomenal success. The system was exceeding patronage targets and reducing traffic congestion on roads running parallel to its lines. Consequently, when the Transport Act 2000 required passenger transport executives to produce local transport plans, GMPTE's top public transport priority was a third phase of Metrolink expansion, which would create 4 new lines along key transport corridors in Greater Manchester, the Oldham and Rochdale Line, the East Manchester Line, the South Manchester Line, and the Airport Line. The East Manchester Line would capitalise on serving the City of Manchester Stadium, a host venue of the 2002 Commonwealth Games. Satisfied it would deliver a key policy commitment with faster expansion and greater value from economies of scale. GMPTE and the Association of Greater Manchester Authorities lobbied central government to provide partial funding to upgrade the current network with a new depot, passenger information displays, and construct 4 new lines in a single Phase 3 contract worth £489 million. Conceding that it would be very difficult to bring Metrolink to the City of Manchester Stadium by 2002, the government accepted its importance to Greater Manchester and the Commonwealth Games on March 22, 2000, with an announcement from Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott that a £289 million government contribution to fund Phase 3 would make Metrolink the envy of Europe. The remaining £200 million was assembled from the private sector by July 2000. Following the announcement, preparatory work such as legal costs, land acquisition and construction of rail bridges over the River Medlock was actioned. However, Metrolink made a loss in 2002 and failed to reduce traffic congestion in Manchester city centre. Costs for Phase 3 implementation were revised in the December after the 2002 Commonwealth Games, totalling £820 million, meaning Metrolink required a government contribution of at least £520 million. With costs predicted to rise further, and concerns raised over light rail procurement nationally, on July 20, 2004, Alistair Darling announced the government had withdrawn its share of funding Metrolink due to excessive costs. In response, highlighting the legal costs and demolition of homes, schools and offices in anticipation of the new lines, the Get Our Metrolink Back on Track campaign spearheaded by the Manchester Evening News and members of Parliament from Greater Manchester was organised to lobby the Department for Transport to fund Phase 3. On December 16, 2004, Alistair Darling announced that the government would fund Phase 3 €1, but not at any price, capping its investment for Metrolink enhancements at £520 million. An initial £102 million funding package was granted by the government in July 2005 for Phase 3 preparatory work, and a Carillion-led track renewal programme for 12 miles of Phase 1 line €1 still using original British rail track €1 that was causing damage to vehicles and discomfort for passengers. Following negotiations between central government and GMPTE and AGMA, Phase 3 funding was confirmed by Douglas Alexander on July 6, 2006, albeit with adjustments and splitting the project into two stages, Phase 3A, elements of expansion funded by government investment, and Phase 3B, elements requiring an alternative funding source. The Mpac Thales Consortium, composed of Lyngurk, Voca Rail and the Thales Group, was appointed to design, build and maintain the 20 miles of new line plus a new depot at Old Trafford. A 0.25-mile spur off the Eccles line to the new Media City UK development at Salford Quays, funded separately by the North West Regional Development Agency, would also fall to Mpac Thales. Phase 3A, Oldham, Rochdale, South Manchester, East Manchester. Phase 3A, dubbed the Mini Bang, or Little Bang, was an extension scheme approved by the government on July 6, 2006, with final sign-off and release of Treasury funds in May 2008. In addition to the separately NWRDA-funded spur from the Eccles line to Media City UK, Phase 3 involved converting the 14-mile Oldham Loop heavy rail line from Victoria to Rochdale via Oldham, building a new 1.7-mile South Manchester line from Trafford Bar to St Werburgh's Road and Chorlton-cum-Hardy, and construction of a new 4-mile East Manchester line from Piccadilly to Droylsden. The Oldham and Rochdale and South Manchester lines were funded by a £244 million lump sum from the government. The East Manchester line to Droylsden was funded by borrowings by GMPTE that would be repaid over 30 years using fare revenue from Metrolink. The Oldham Loop line, subsidised by GMPTE and used for suburban commuting, closed on October 3, 2009, allowing work to convert the line from heavy rail to Metrolink, although preparatory work on Central Park Metrolink station and a flyover at Newton Heath over the heavy Caldervale line commenced in 2005. Conversion of the Oldham Loop for Metrolink allowed for the addition of new stops along the line, including Monsell, South Chadderton, and Newbold. Kingsway Business Park Metrolink station was authorised at a late stage of planning in July 2011 once the Phase 3B Drake Street Metrolink station was abandoned and additional funding was procured from Rochdale Metropolitan Borough Council and Kingsway Business Park's private developer Wilson Bowden. The planned opening of Phase 3A services was initially delayed on each line by months due to faults with a new £22 million digital signalling and control system known as the Tram Management System, or TMS, designed by the Thales Group. Services on the spur from the Eccles line to Media City UK Metrolink station were expected to commence during summer 2010, and began on September 20, 2010, serving Media City UK, a 200-acre development for creative and digital mass media organisations, and the Lowry, a combined theatre gallery and Greater Manchester's most visited tourist attraction. On its inauguration, TMS experienced several faults on the expanded Eccles line, causing chaos at Media City UK, and 24 service delays on the network between September 2010 and February 2011. On the South Manchester line, services to St Werburgh's Road Metrolink station were expected to commence in spring 2011, but delayed until July 7, 2011, due to problems with TMS. On the Oldham and Rochdale line, services from Manchester to Central Park and Oldham Mumps were expected to open in spring 2011 and autumn 2011 respectively, but problems with TMS and the need to renew structures delayed services until June 13, 2012, when 7.1 miles of the line from Victoria to Oldham Mumps Metrolink station opened in a single stage. After 3 months in operation, Metrolink services to Oldham were hailed a huge success by TfGM, with 250,000 passengers on the line between June and September, strengthening TfGM's position that Phase 3A would raise daily ridership on Metrolink to 90,000. Originally planned to open in spring 2012, then delayed to autumn 2012, a service on the Oldham and Rochdale line from Oldham Mumps as far as Shaw and Crompton Metrolink station began on December 16, 2012. In January 2013, a contract dispute between TfGM and Thales Group over missed deadlines and poor performance of TMS resulted in TfGM withholding payments for unfulfilled construction targets. Services to Rochdale and Royalston were scheduled for a spring 2012 opening date, but delayed by months because of problems with the implementation of TMS, prompting outrage from members of Parliament representing these areas. The East Manchester line to Royalston opened to selected residents of Manchester and Tameside on February 8, 2013, and to the general public on February 11, 2013. On February 28, 2013, passenger services expanded along the 4.6-mile stretch of the Oldham and Rochdale line between Shaw and Crompton and Rochdale railway station, completing Phase 3A, and giving Metrolink a total network length of 43 miles. On May 9, 2013, TMS was successfully implemented in the City Zone, providing real-time passenger information displays at all stops in Manchester city centre. Phase 3B, Ashton-under-Lyne, East Didsbury and Manchester Airport. Phase 3B was revealed in July 2006 when Phase 3 was split into 2 smaller phases. A range of motivators pushed transport planners to pursue Phase 3B, including attracting new passengers, value to the economy, reduction of road traffic congestion, regeneration, and improved access to town centres, business districts and labour markets. Under Phase 3B plans, Metrolink proposed to extend the East Manchester line by 2.4 miles from Royalston to Ashton-under-Lyne. Extend the South Manchester line by 2.7 miles from St Werburgh's Road to Didsbury. And create a new 9-mile airport line to Manchester Airport from a junction at St Werburgh's Road. Phase 3B enacted plans first drawn up in 1983, laid before Parliament in 1988, and approved by the government in 1991 to reroute and extend the Oldham and Rochdale line at a cost of £124,500,000 with a street-running route through Oldham and Rochdale town centres, both of which were poorly served by using the outlying Oldham Mumps and Rochdale railway stations alone. Tasked with procuring funds for Phase 3B from sources other than central government, in July 2007 GMPTE and AGMA submitted a bid to the Transport Innovation Fund, which would release a multi-million-pound sum for public transport improvements linked to viable anti-road traffic congestion strategies. A referendum on the Greater Manchester Transport Innovation Fund was held in Greater Manchester on December 19, 2008, in which 79% of voters rejected plans for public transport improvements linked to a peak-time weekday-only Greater Manchester congestion charge. In May 2009, Greater Manchester Integrated Transport Authority and AGMA agreed to create the Greater Manchester Transport Fund, a £1.5 billion raised from a combination of a levy on council tax in Greater Manchester, government grants, contributions from the Manchester Airports Group, Metrolink fares and third-party funding for major transport schemes in the region. Phase 3B was approved with funding on a line-by-line basis between March and August 2010. Construction work for all Phase 3B lines began in March 2011. On the Airport line, a 580-ton steel bridge was erected in Wythenshawe over the M56 motorway on November 25, 2012. Following the closure of Mosley Street Metrolink station on May 17, 2013, the 2.7-mile route of the South Manchester line from St Werburgh's Road to East Didsbury Metrolink station was the first section of Phase 3B line to open on May 23, 2013, 3 months ahead of schedule. The East Manchester line was completed on October 9, 2013 with a new service routed 2.1 miles between Droylsden and Ashton-under-Lyne Metrolink station, taking the total system length to 47.7 miles. The Oldham and Rochdale line was completed with a street-running service through Oldham Town Centre on January 27, 2014, and the addition of a street-running service between Rochdale Railway Station and Rochdale Town Centre on March 31, 2014, taking the total system length to 48.5 miles. On November 3, 2014, the network once again expanded, with a 14.5-mile extension to Manchester Airport Railway Station, bringing the length of the system to 92.5 kilometres, making it the longest tramway in the United Kingdom, and the longest light railway. It opened more than 1 year early, and at a cost of £368 million. Phase 2 CCs, the second city crossing is a second Metrolink route across Manchester city centre, first proposed in 2011 as a means to improve capacity, flexibility and reliability as the rest of the system expands due to Phases 3A and 3B. Funded by the Greater Manchester Transport Fund, its 0.8-mile route will begin at a rebuilt St Peter's Square Metrolink station, and run along Princess Street, Cross Street and Corporation Street to rejoin the existing Metrolink line by Victoria Station. Following the submission of a planning document under the Transport and Works Act 1992, and a public inquiry held throughout 2013, the second city crossing was granted approval on October 8, 2013 by the Secretary of State for Transport, Patrick McLellan, and signed off on October 28, 2013 by the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. Construction is to commence in 2014, with Exchange Square Metrolink station joining the network as a new stop on the crossing. The Shaw and Crompton to Exchange Square service is to join the network in 2015 with completion of the scheme expected in 2016/17. Operator. Metrolink is run as a public-private partnership between TfGM and private transport firms. Between 1992 and 2007 Metrolink was operated and maintained as a concession by Serco. From 2007 until 2011 it was operated and maintained by Stagecoach Metrolink, a part of the Stagecoach Group. Metrolink RATP Dev, a part of the French state-owned RATP Group which operates the Paris Mar Copyright Row, bought the Metrolink contract from Stagecoach on August 1, 2011. Metrolink is headed by Peter Cushing, the Metrolink director at TfGM. Appointed by TfGM and the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, Cushing began his post on February 4, 2013, having previously been the operations director of Central Trains. Cushing replaced Philip Purdy, who joined Metrolink in May 2008, having previously overseen the expansion of the Melbourne tramway network with Yarra Trams. Branding and public relations, the name Metrolink and a system-wide aquamarine, black and grey corporate branding and vehicle livery was devised by Fitch RS and Design Triangle, and first revealed at a press launch in June 1988. Previously, during the planning and promotional stages, the system was known as Project Light Rail, and borrowed an orange and brown identity used by Greater Manchester Transport and GM buses. In August 1991, in partnership with BBC Manchester, Metrolink ran a nickname Metrolink competition to find an affectionate short name for the system, comparable to the Tube for London Underground and the L for the Chicago Elevated Transit System. Most submissions were inspired by textile manufacturing, Greater Manchester's historic staple industry, using names such as the Thread and the Shuttle, but the winning entry was the Met. In 2008, a distinctive yellow and metallic silver vehicle livery, and corresponding yellow system-wide corporate rebranding was introduced by Manchester-based Hemisphere Design and Marketing Consultancy, designed in partnership with Peter Saville, Dalton Morgan Design Triangle. Yellow was chosen by Hemisphere for its high visibility and to reflect Greater Manchester's culture of confidence and optimism. Metrolink has been a football development partner with the Manchester Football Association since August 2010, meaning it is the association's official travel partner, and supports grassroots association football in Greater Manchester by selecting a Team of the Month. Metrolink is a sponsor of the annual Manchester Food and Drink Festival. On December 6, 2010, to celebrate the soap opera's 50th anniversary, Coronation Street featured a storyline with an explosion which caused a crash on the Metrolink system at Weatherfield. Although a fictitious event, at least 6 calls were made to GMPTE asking if services had been affected. Transport planners in Greater Manchester describe Metrolink as both an icon of Greater Manchester, and an integral part of the landscape in Greater Manchester. The Guardian describes Metrolink as Manchester's efficient and much-loved trams system. Under ownership of the Guardian Media Group, the Manchester Evening News spearheaded the Get On Metrolink Back On Track campaign in 2004 €05. Under Trinity Mirror ownership, the Manchester Evening News used the Freedom of Information Act 2000 to reveal that Metrolink received over 10,000 complaints between May 2011 and May 2012. In 2013, then Manchester City FC manager Roberto Mancini and players Joe Hart, Vincent Kompany and James Milner recorded special stop announcements to be used on Metrolink's East Manchester line on dates when Manchester City play at home at the City of Manchester Stadium. The announcements were first used on February 17, 2013, for Manchester City's FA Cup fifth-round tie against Leeds United AFC, infrastructure, stations and lines. As of November 2014, Metrolink has a network length of 57 miles and 92 stations known as stops along 7 lines which radiate from a central triangular junction at Piccadilly Gardens which forms the hub of the Metrolink system in the city zone. The lines are, the Airport Line, the Altrincham Line, the Bury Line, the East Manchester Line, the South Manchester Line, the Eccles Line, which terminates in Eccles, and the Oldham and Rochdale Line. Some stops, such as Cornbrook, are shared between lines, and may be used as interchange stations. Others, such as Altrincham Interchange, are transport hubs which integrate with heavy rail and bus stations. Each station has at least one high-floor platform measuring a minimum of 2 meters wide, accessed by ramp, stairs, escalator, lift or combination thereof. Low-floor platforms commonly used for light rail throughout the world were ruled out for Metrolink because the system inherited 90-centimetre high-floor platforms from British Rail on lines formerly used for heavy rail. Shelters and canopies at stations were supplied by Deco, and ticket vending machines by Skeet and Bachmann. Card readers are installed on all stop platforms, ready for the TfGM My Get Me There smart card being trialled in 2014. And when this is fully implemented, all smart card users will touch in and touch out at a platform reader. Each line has track with standard gauge specification, powering vehicles electrically from 750 VDC overhead lines. Between 1992 and 2007, electricity for the Metrolink system was procured by the operator, based on price only. In 2007, GMPTE changed the contractual requirements to ensure that sustainable power would be factored into choosing an energy supplier, and in July 2007, Metrolink became the first light rail network in the UK with electricity supplied entirely from sustainable energy via hydropower. Rolling stock, T6868A. To commence operations, a fleet of 26 T68 trams were delivered in 1992. To provide extra trams for the Eccles line, 6 modified T68A trams were purchased in 1999. The T68A vehicles were based on the original T68s, but had modifications replacing destination roll blinds with dot matrix displays, and retractable couplers and covered bogies necessary for the high proportion of on-street running close to motor traffic. 3 of the earlier T68 fleet were similarly equipped, and were known as a T68 milliseconds. Mechanically and electrically the T68M vehicles remained essentially a T68, but had modifications to its brakes, mirrors, and speed limiters to suit the Eccles line. Initially only these vehicles were permitted to operate the Eccles line, but the entire fleet was modified between 2008 and 2012 for universal running, under a program known as the T68X Universal Running Program. All of the T68 and T68s were withdrawn between April 2012 and April 2014. M5000. In December 2009, Metrolink took delivery of the first M5000 tram. Built by Bombardier Transportation and Voslo Keep, the initial 8 M5000s were ordered to allow services to be increased. They are part of the Flexity Swift range of light rail vehicles, and have a design similar to the K5000 vehicle used on the Cologne State Bahn. With the approval of the Spur to Media City UK, a further 4 were ordered to provide rolling stock for the Phase 3 extensions and replace the existing fleet. The order was increased successively to 94. In December 2013, a further 10 M5000s were ordered to provide trams for the Trafford Park Line planned to open in 2020, while in the interim supporting a service between Media City UK and Manchester City Centre and other capacity enhancements. In September 2014, a further 16 were ordered. This will bring the fleet up to 120. Metrolink has one special-purpose vehicle from 1991. Numbered 1027 with its support wagon 1028, it is a bespoke diesel-powered vehicle with a crane, inspection platform, mobile workshop, and capacity for a driver and 3 passengers. It was designed to assist with vehicle recovery and track and line repairs. Depots. Metrolink House at Queen's Road in Cheetham Hill is the headquarters of Metrolink. Constructed during Phase 1, it served jointly as a control centre, headquarters, office space, and depot for the storage, maintenance and repair of vehicles. Under the original proposals, Metrolink House was much larger, with a design which would support network expansion, but this design did not obtain the necessary planning permission from Manchester City Council. Consequently, Metrolink House was scaled down to a 4-hectare £8 million site with limited capacity, and, in light of Phase 3 and network expansion, Metrolink built a second depot at Elsinore Road in Old Trafford in 2011. This second depot occupies the site of a former warehouse, and can house up to 96 vehicles. On May 7, 2013, Metrolink completed the transfer of its main operational functions from Cheetham Hill to Old Trafford, meaning its control room known as the Network Management Centre is housed jointly with the Customer Services team by its newer depot. Wi-Fi. In July 2013, the Transport for Greater Manchester Committee announced that it planned to enhance the experience of travelling on Metrolink by tapping into Manchester City Council's grant from the UK Urban Broadband Fund and using it to provide Metrolink passengers with free Wi-Fi when on board. The scheme began with a trial on a single tram number 3054 connected to the free BMCR broadband network with the intention of rolling it out across the whole Metrolink network by spring 2015. Proposed changes and expansion. Travelling, service and hours of operation. Before inauguration, GMPTE's original concept was for Metrolink's operator to provide a service every 10 minutes from Bury to Piccadilly and Altrincham to Piccadilly 6 am midnight, Monday to Saturday. Greater Manchester Metrolink Limited, the system's original operator, argued for adjustments, citing the need to provide an efficient and commercially viable operation in line with vehicle running times and passenger demand. Due to power limitations, this pattern was modified to a 12-minute service throughout the day, doubling to a 6-minute service in peak periods, resulting in a 10 trams per hour service pattern on routes running from Altrincham and Bury to Manchester every 6 minutes. Operators are required to provide this level of service at least 98% of the time, or incur a financial penalty charge. This 6-minute service pattern has been adopted on the rest of the network as the system has grown. Heavy snowfall during the winter of 2009-10 impaired Metrolink services and the operator was criticised for failing to have cold weather procedures. This prompted a program to improve reliability and performance of the system in freezing conditions. Metrolink operated icebreaker-style vehicles at night during snowfall in January 2013 to provide normal services. A survey in 2012 revealed that passengers who used Metrolink every day for commuting rated service levels as poor and/or unreliable, with those respondents particularly frustrated by delays and disruptions. TfGM recognized that the older vehicles in its fleet are the T68 per ton 68 as are outdated and the cause of much disruption, and agreed to replace them with M5000s by 2014. Among those who used Metrolink less regularly, the system scored far better in the survey. A survey in 2014 by the non-departmental government body Passenger Focus found that of the 5 major light rail systems in the United Kingdom Metrolink, Sheffield Supertram, NET, Midland Metro and Blackpool Tramway Metrolink had the lowest overall satisfaction rating in the United Kingdom. Respondents were surveyed on value for money, punctuality, seating availability, tram stations and overall satisfaction. Metrolink was below average on all criteria, and 47% believed Metrolink was value for money compared to a national average of 60%. Ticketing. Metrolink fares were originally set by the system's operator, but are now set by the TfGM committee at levels that cover both the running costs and the cost of borrowing that has part-funded the expansion of the system. Metrolink receives no public subsidy. Fares typically rise each January above the rate of inflation. The fare tariff is based on a division of the network's stations into fare zones. Persons under 16 years of age, persons of pensionable age, and people with disabilities qualify for concessionary fares, some of which are mandatory and others discretionary, as determined by the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. The Greater Manchester Combined Authority permits reduced fares for persons under 16 years of age, and free or reduced fares on Metrolink after 9:30 a.m. for pensioners. In normal circumstances, tickets cannot be purchased on board Metrolink vehicles, and must be purchased from a ticket vending machine before boarding the vehicle. Fare evasion in 2006 was estimated at euro 6% of all users, and in 2012 at 2.5% of all users. Checking tickets and passes and issuing penalty fares is the responsibility of Metrolink's passenger services representatives, who provide security and assistance on the network. Between 1992 and 2008, Greater Manchester Police had a dedicated Metrolink unit responsible for policing the system. The original ticket vending machines were designed by Thorn Emy. In 2005 GMPTE announced that rail passengers travelling from within Greater Manchester into Manchester City Centre can use the Metrolink service between the 8 City Zone stations for free. Passengers must present a valid rail ticket, correctly dated with Manchester CTLZ as the destination. In 2007 TfGM rolled out new ticket vending machines, designed to accept credit debit card payments and permit the purchase of multiple tickets in a single transaction. These were replaced in 2009 with touch-screen machines, designed with a Skeet and Bachmann ticket XPRESS system. In October 2012, TfGM announced it was devising a simpler zonal fare system, comparable to London fare zones, and preparing to introduce Get Me There, the region's new contactless smart card system, for use on all public transport modes in Greater Manchester, including Metrolink. Tram services, Monday to Saturday service, Bury Altrincham, every 12 minutes, Altrincham Piccadilly, every 12 minutes, Bury Abraham Moss, every 12 minutes, East Didsbury Rochdale Town Centre, every 12 minutes, Eccles Ashton-under-Lyne, every 12 minutes, Manchester Airport Cornbrook, every 12 minutes, Media City UK Cornbrook, every 12 minutes. The combined Monday-Saturday daytime frequency on the Bury and Altrincham routes is every 6 minutes. Sunday and public holiday service, Bury Altrincham, every 12 minutes 8 a.m. 5:30 p.m., every 15 minutes at other times, East Didsbury Rochdale Town Centre, every 12 minutes 8 a.m. 5 p.m., every 15 minutes at other times, Eccles Ashton-under-Lyne via Media City UK, every 12 minutes 8 a.m. 5:30 p.m., every 15 minutes at other times, Manchester Airport Cornbrook, every 12 minutes 9 a.m. 6 p.m., every 15 minutes at other times. Patronage, The Department for Transport reported passenger journeys for the 2013/14 financial year at 29.2 million. A 16.7% increase from 25 million the previous year. Patronage has risen steadily since its opening, from a start point of 8.1 million in the 1992/93 fiscal year. Travel increased from 18.2 million journeys in 2001 February to 20 million journeys in 2008 September. Numbers fell to 18.7 million in 2009 while parts of the system were closed for upgrades, but recovered to 19.6 million for the 2009 October fiscal year. Metrolink revised its method for calculating passenger boardings in 2010 November, meaning figures are not directly comparable with previous years. TfGM projects that 41.7 million passenger journeys per year will be made on the Metrolink system by 2016/17. A survey in 2012 revealed that 12%, or around 1 in 10 people in Greater Manchester use Metrolink to travel to work, and 8% use the system every day. The system is most commonly used by 21 to 30-year-olds, and was used most markedly by residents of the Metropolitan Borough of Bury, accounting for around a third of their commuter journeys. See also: List of tram and light rail transit systems, Manchester Corporation Tramways, Transport in Manchester, List of town tramway systems in England, List of town tramway systems in the United Kingdom, Notes. References. Bibliography. External links: www.metrolink.co.uk, the official Metrolink website, www.tfgm.com, the official website of Transport for Greater Manchester, www.lrta.org/. Manchester, historical account of Metrolink from the Light Rail Transit Association.